Welcome to African Storylines. Please subscribe, like, comment and share. This pastor killed his church member for rituals. They called him man of God. Respected, trusted, loved. But behind the holy robes and fiery sermons was a monster. A man driven not by faith, but by a desperate thirst for power. This is the chilling true story of how Pastor Josiah, beloved shepherd of New Harvest Church, took the life of one of his most devoted members, in the name of rituals. But how did no one see it coming? How does a man of God become a servant of darkness? Stay with me, what you're about to hear will haunt you. In the small town of Ikenna, Nigeria, New Harvest Church stood like a beacon of hope. At the center of it was Pastor Josiah, a charismatic, bold, fire and brimstone preacher with a gift for words and a smile that could calm a storm. He wasn't always a pastor. Years ago, he had struggled like many. Poverty, rejection, even a near-death experience that led him to find God, or so he claimed. When he founded the church, people were drawn in like moths to a flame. He healed the sick, prophesied breakthroughs, and promised miracles. The offerings flowed in. So did the testimonies. And Josiah became a spiritual celebrity. But behind closed doors, Josiah had a secret. The miracles were staged, the testimonies rehearsed, and the power he claimed to have, it came from a dark place. Among the many churchgoers was Amaka, 23 years old, humble, kind, and fiercely devoted to her faith. She came every Sunday, sang in the choir, cleaned the church without being asked, and never missed a vigil. She trusted Josiah completely, called him Daddy in the Lord. And Josiah noticed her, but not in a good way. One fateful Sunday, Josiah received a visit in his prayer room, not from a church member, but from an old friend, Prophet Ebenezer, a man with ties to spiritualists and secret rituals. Ebenezer whispered, "Your ministry will not grow further unless you make a blood sacrifice. A pure soul. One who trusts you blindly." At first, Josiah resisted. But as donations slowed, attendance dropped, and scandals loomed, desperation set in. He remembered Amaka, innocent, loyal, and unsuspecting. He made his choice. Josiah began grooming Amaka even more. He made her his personal assistant, gave her visions, prayed for her future husband. He told her, "God has a special calling for you. But first, you must undergo spiritual cleansing." Amaka, in awe, said yes. She was ready to serve God at any cost. Josiah told the church she would be going on a spiritual retreat to connect with divine purpose. The church clapped, blessed her, and even gave donations for her journey. They had no idea they were funding her death. The retreat wasn't in a resort. It was a lonely compound in a thick forest outside the town. Josiah took her there himself. The night was unusually quiet. Too quiet. He told her to fast and pray, to wear white, and not to speak until dawn. At midnight, he entered the hut with a knife and a bowl of black powder. Amaka opened her eyes and whispered, "Daddy, what's going on?" Josiah said nothing. He raised the knife. Amaka screamed once, then silence. He made the sacrifice, burned the body, buried the ashes beneath the altar of his new, holy fire, chapel. The next Sunday, he stood on the pulpit and shouted, "The Lord has given us a breakthrough." And the crowd screamed in praise. At first, no one noticed Amaka was gone. Josiah claimed she had gone to Lagos for Bible school. But her best friend, Ikenna, wasn't convinced. Amaka always called, always texted. And now? Nothing. No status updates. No responses. Just silence. She went to the church, asked questions. Josiah became angry. "You dare question the servant of God?" She backed off. But she started digging. She went to Amaka's house untouched. Found her diary filled with praise for a Daddy Josiah. And one disturbing lie. He said I must go with him alone for a private retreat. He says it will change my life. Ikenna took it to the police. The police didn't act at first. It was a pastor, a respected one. But pressure grew. And eventually, they sent 2 officers to the church. Josiah welcomed them with smiles and scriptures. She is doing God's work, he said. Out of town. But one officer noticed something strange: freshly dug soil behind the church. It reeked of ash and burnt cloth. They returned that night, dug up the site. What they found was horrifying charred human bones, a scorched Bible, and a fragment of white cloth with Amaka's initials. Josiah was arrested that morning in the middle of his sermon. The town erupted. Half were in disbelief. He's innocent, they shouted. The devil is trying to bring down the church. The other half wept, furious and devastated. She trusted him. He killed her. The trial was fast and emotional. Forensic reports confirmed the bones belonged to Amaka. Witnesses testified. Even a former church member confessed Josiah had once asked him, "Would you die for the Lord?" literally. The judge looked Josiah in the eye and said, "You were called to shepherd, not slaughter. You betrayed trust, faith, and God himself." Josiah was sentenced to death. New Harvest Church was shut down. The land became overgrown, cursed in the eyes of the townsfolk. Ikenna now speaks at women's events, warning about blind faith and false prophets. Amaka's mother built a small foundation in her name, offering scholarships to girls who want to study theology safely. And as for Josiah, he sits on death row, no longer a man of God. Just a man. A murderer. Haunted by the face of the girl who only wanted to serve. There are pastors. And there are predators. Be careful who you follow. Trust is sacred. And once broken, it leaves a scar that no amount of prayer can heal. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more shocking true stories. And remember, evil often wears a holy face.